Welcome to the Better Two podcast. I'm your host, Donna. Today's guest is Don Cusic. Don is a music aficionado, but that's just not all that Don is. Don's a songwriter. Don is the king of liner notes in the country music world. He's also a songwriter and, well, so much more. So tune in. Come Out of the Shadows is D.M. Needom's latest novella. World-famous singer Grace Fillmore catches the attention of many admirers. However, one individual will go to extreme measures to possess her. With the stalker situation intensifying, Grace's record label enlists bodyguard Dylan Roberts for her protection. As Dylan takes on the role of safeguarding Grace, she notices something she desires, but so does Dylan. Can Dylan stop the threat, or will their attraction become a distraction that jeopardizes everything? Come Out of the Shadows is available on Amazon.com. Hi, Don. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Donna. How about you?
I'm doing good. I am doing pretty good today. So you are, let's say, I don't want to say an odd duck, but you have such an interesting career because normally I talk to musicians, normally I talk to authors, and you're kind of both, but not, because you're a producer and you are a music historian and you've been featured on a lot of liner notes. And so you have this really diverse background, but you started out as a reporter, correct?
Yes, I got a degree in journalism, and I worked for a newspaper in my old hometown. And then I came to Tennessee and worked for a newspaper in Cookeville for a while before I got to Nashville. And then, of course, I got here and I got a job at the trade magazine. So journalism has been kind of professional kickstart there. That's the kind of route to go back to there.
And when you start with a trade magazine, this is going to open up doors to get to interview people, interview artists, which then I would assume led you to building relationship with artists and then being able to be on the liner notes.
Yeah, sort of. It did build because you have access to so many people. And of course, the trade magazine, we were covering the business of music, the music business. But I did use it to get some, do some interviews, do some freelancing, do some stories outside of that. But it's been you're right. I am an odd duck with all those things that I've done.
And I mean,
it's been fun.
I didn't mean anything bad by that. It's just when you look at your diverse background, it's like, you're a man of many hats. I could sit there and describe it as in many different ways. But when I sit there and look at, you've been inducted into the Western Music Hall of Fame, you've been on liner notes, you've produced music. There's just not one little pigeonhole that I can put you in.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing goes back to writing. I have no practical skills. I can change a light bulb if it's not a fluorescent light. But what I can do is read and write. And that's kind of been the basis of everything. And, when I wasn't writing, I wasn't happy. When I was writing, I was. So I just kind of kept after that, kept doing that.
But that's a gift. And a lot of people don't realize when they're passionate about something, when they're not doing it. I mean, for me, I've come to terms with the fact that if I don't write, I can tell that my mood is off. I can tell that I feel just not happy, because at my core, as much as I love doing this and I do love talking to people, I also love writing. So I have to have that balance of passion. And the problem is a lot of people get so stressed with the day-to-day routine of a job, a family and everything, that they don't pursue their passion. And then they're like, I'm miserable and I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to, as the song says, follow your arrow. Because, people, I get asked, what should I do? And people talk about goals and what they want. A lot of life comes to you. And if you let life come to you, that gets sorted out. Because I have students and they're saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, but does that want to do, do you? So that's part of it, letting your life come to you. Not that I am a shining example of that to start with anyway, but eventually it did. It came to me. And I think one of the things that I hear from former students, if they've been out for 10 years, is that I never thought I'd be doing this. I love what I do, but I never thought I would be doing this. And it's a matter of letting life come to you.
Hmm. And I mean, I think we also get trapped in the whole thought of, well, what I want to do is not happening fast enough. It's not happening fast enough. I need it to happen now. And I think that's as
Yeah.
our society has embraced technology more, our patience level has gone down a considerable amount because we
Mhm.
want everything, instantaneous. I was still of the generation where, I really want this dress. Well, I need to put it on layaway. And now we don't have layaway except for Christmas, but you had to wait for that.
Yeah.
And that was like a
Yeah.
reward. But now it's like everything's got to happen quickly.
Oh, yeah. I get that. If you don't, an email comes in, if you haven't answered in 20 seconds, you're they're mad at you. They're upset. It could take several hours.
Hmm.
They don't want to hear that. But it's a different change of generations, and we we weren't always so wise way back then. In fact, if we'd been wise when we were young, we'd be a lot better shape.
Oh, this is true. This is so very true. And it's like,
Yeah.
the older generation would sit there and tell you things and you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, like what you're talking about. But when you look
Mhm.
back, it's kind of like, well, they might have had some clues about some things.
Yeah. What Mark Twain said when he was 14, his father was the dumbest man he ever knew. When he turned 21, he was amazed at how much he learned in just 7 years.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like we don't necessarily appreciate what other people say because they don't know that your experience. It's like sometimes, and I realized that when my dad lost his wife, he was like he treated it like he was the only person that had ever lost a person.
Yeah.
And at the time prior to that, I had two stepkids, and he was like, "Well, they're not your kids. They're not your kids." Okay, all right. Now, fast forward to him losing his wife, and granted, his stepdaughter was of age. She was over 21, and he's like, "I'm all that she's got now." And I just said, "Oh, so you understand then about me and the girls?" And it was like it took him a moment, and I was like, "Yeah, I do." Because sometimes I think we get into this tunnel vision of life that we don't think that anybody else has had this experience,
Yeah.
but we all
Yep.
have in some form or
Yep.
fashion.
That's a common thread. We've all been sad and we've all been happy. And
Mhm.
I like Satchel Paige's statement that money can't buy you happiness, but it eases your mind.
Yes, and I think that's the bigger thing. I mean, if we
Yeah.
if you don't have to worry about that, if you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
meeting your needs, then life is a little easier. You can handle the
Yeah.
stresses better.
Yeah. That's true. That is so true.
But when you're in a constant cycle of trying to meet your needs, it amps up your insecurity, it amps up your stress
Uh,
and everything.
It just drains you. It
Mhm.
drains you. It's a drain all the time, and nothing's filling it back up. So,
Which goes back
yeah,
to
that's
working on your passion.
yes. And speaking of my passion, from and speaking of life coming to you, I've got a book on Chet Atkins coming out. Have you heard of Chet Atkins?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Oh, good.
I'm
I have
not that young. I mean,
well, I
I'm
have
almost
students.
60.
I have students who, they'll say, "Well, wasn't he a country singer or something like that?" He's a guitar player.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, but I mean, it's amazing. I know it sounds trite that fame is fleeting, but there's a lot of very famous people that nobody's heard of, or used to be famous people,
Oh, yeah.
and that really, when you get around young people, that really cuts you down to size.
Well,
Who is Elvis?
I think that's the thing. It's like before the internet, in the 80s, you could walk into a store and you would see posters of Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, James Dean, Jim Morrison. Those guys still had that enigma about them. We
Yeah.
had in fame, you had the tabloids, but there was such a limited amount of who was in them. We were spoon fed what we
Hmm.
needed to see. And now with the internet, everything comes and it happens so quickly that It goes back to the Warhol statement of everybody's famous for 15 minutes. You can get
Hmm.
famous and just as quickly disappear. And I
Yeah.
don't think that was so much the case before the internet.
Yeah, there was a longevity there. There's a longevity in careers
Hmm.
more than it is now. Here, it happens. You're right. It's happening fast. Talk about happening fast. Careers can happen very fast. The thing, the odd thing of it is the payoff. If that career does happen fast, you can have a huge payoff, and then a year from now, not making any money or not making much money. It's amazing how much that can drop off.
Well, that's why when people would talk about how much actors make, I would base it, or sports figures. And I mean, yeah, some are crazy figures, but one injury for a football player and his
Mm-hmm.
career's toast. He will never
Done.
make another
Yeah.
dime for playing professional sports. So what is he going to do for a living? The actor, like you said, may get one great gig. They may have a career-based, TV show, and then that's gone. And they'll
Yeah.
never get another gig. I mean, David Caruso, there we go. David Caruso. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Redheaded guy. Yeah. He thought he was going to go hit the movies and he was going to be a big deal, and nobody knows him.
Yeah. Yeah. That story is played out over and over again, especially with the TikTok phenomena,
Mhm.
where those, clips. I had produced a girl singer, and they needed some TikTok clips, and so I went in the studio and I did 3, and there was a young guy in there, and he looked at them all and he said, "They're too long. They were like 30 seconds. They were
Mhm.
too long."
Mhm. Which is,
So,
it's crazy, but I think, I was talking to somebody the other day. It's like MTV, my mother used to say MTV is going to rot your mind. I'm like, okay, whatever, mom, because I was a teenager when MTV first came out, and I would like watch the music videos. But then when you think about it, okay, we started learning that here's this little clip of music, and then it's going to be another clip, and then it's going to be another clip, and those were about 3 to 5 minutes, somewhere in there. And then we started with the real world, which I never watched, but I had friends that. So you started with
mhm.
reality TV. And so now TikTok basically is MTV rolled into one, because you have the very short clips, which are even shorter than back in the day, and you have
Mhm.
reality, or faux reality still. But we've dumbed down our attention span to that of a gnat,
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate.
it it's it is, and we were talking about reading one day, some other people, about how reading the things stick with you more if you read a whole book as opposed to maybe watch a movie or do something. But so few people read today.
Yeah.
They read with audiobooks. Well, thank goodness for that. But they're really not reading. And if you don't read, you don't have a depth. You need the reading for the depth.
But that's the thing. I think when you've taken some of the critical thinking out of schools, and the younger generation doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have that critical thinking, are they really going to grasp the depth of anything? And I'm not trying to disparage
Yeah.
a whole generation. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying that if they can't critically think, and there's the old adage of,
Hmm.
and I know the adage of, you'd follow them off of a cliff. If you're just a
Hmm.
follower, you're just going to follow them right off a cliff. You're not going to do your own thing. And as original as some people are on the internet, there are a lot that will hit one TikTok trend, and everybody's got to do it. So back to that whole, oh, well, if they're going to jump off a cliff, so will I. For
Hmm.
what?
Yeah, and because we're seeing that in the world at large now, and
Hmm.
certainly the country at large.
Hmm.
People following without maybe questioning as much as they should. Um, yeah, that makes me a little pessimistic. But I also have to believe, because we came through, we managed to survive, and uh, it got us here today. And today doesn't look like it yesterday did, and it don't look like tomorrow's going to look like. But we'll just keep, as the British keep saying, we'll muddle through.
Hmm.
So
And we'll survive. So
yeah,
when does your book come out?
June 1st. It's
Okay.
yeah, so we're going to come have a big thing in Nashville at RCA Studio B, which is where Chet Atkins, he was a producer as well as a guitar player and an executive. And he produced a lot of acts in a studio here that's close to where I'm sitting. And are you familiar with Nashville at all?
I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people. I know the Bluebird. I know the Grand Ole Opry. I know some things, but I am not a big Nashville person. No.
Well, this is a MusicRow area, so it's where a lot of the businesses are or have been. A lot of those businesses have moved off MusicRow, but yeah, it's a history that has touched your life. There have if you've liked the Everly Brothers, if you've liked Elvis, if you've liked Eddy Arnold, if you've liked and Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, or Dolly Parton, a lot of those songs that you remember were recorded at RCA Studio B, and it's amazing how some little building, small building, can affect so many people all over the world.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, they just redid Abbey Road, and they had a celebration of reopening Abbey Road, which is very much like that. It's the same kind of situation. Everybody knows that studio.
Yeah. They can't get in the studio, but they've got a gift shop now. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
I used to take students. I'm not going this year, but I would take students over, and that was the big thing, is to walk across Abbey Road. And I told them, if I don't come back one year, it's because I got run over by a car standing in the middle of Abbey Road taking pictures of students walking across. So, but I got back safely.
I would think that is a very much the common practice at Abbey Road.
Oh yes. They're just lined up there, and of course the cars hate it because it's a crosswalk and they have to stop. And so, and all these people are waiting to cross there. So, but yeah, it's one of those bucket list things for a lot of people.
Well, it's like the Vegas sign.
Cross Abbey Road.
The Vegas sign's the same way, apparently, that if you go to the Welcome Las Vegas sign, there's a line. You get like 15 seconds to get your party there, to take the picture, and then you got to be done.
Like, God, I haven't been to Las Vegas in years and years. So where is this, on the main drag?
I think it's on the main drag. I mean, I haven't done this. One of my friends told me about it, but yeah, it's that Welcome to Las Vegas sign that's synonymous, that everybody knows. Apparently people will wait hours to take a picture with it. I'm like, okay.
I'll be darned.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that turns them on, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have something to remember.
So how did you actually get to, what made you decide to pick Chet to write a book about?
Well, we were talking about life coming to you. That's not an unusual question, because I've written a batch of books. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the book, the ideas come to you. It's not that you're chasing them. I knew Chet. There was never a book written about him, an incredibly important figure in country music in Nashville. And, I'd run into mutual friends. I would run across an article, and it just kind of gradually rolled along. You need to do a book on this guy. And that's kind of how it's emerged for a lot of things I've done. Whereas the ideas come to you rather than you just chasing ideas. Because a lot of times if you chase an idea, I want to do this, it never happens. It just, for whatever reason. So that's what I'm involved with now, things coming to me. And that was the essence of Chet. Of course, Chet certainly deserves a book. He's an interesting person. He's got the most famous guitar player of the 20th century. He said has touched your lives with stuff he's produced and stuff he's played and stuff he's connected with. So it just seemed like, you don't sit down one day and say, I'm going to write a book. It kind of evolves. Oh, yeah. You write an article, or you talk to somebody, or you get in a conversation, and it gets rolling along. And then you end up with a book. You end up with a big pile of paper that the printers printed have it.
And then the editor has to look at it, and then, all those processes. So out of all the people that you've gotten to talk to, who stands out the most to you?
You mean that I've interviewed, or?
Yeah, that you've interviewed.
Probably Johnny Cash and
Uh,
Dolly. Dolly, I never really interviewed her. We speak, but that's,
mhm.
um, Johnny Cash, I sat down with a long interview with him. Um, he was very impressive. He was kind of like bigger than the room, uh, as that goes. I think I'd have to pick him. The guy I never met, but I wish I had, because I wrote a book about it, was Roger Miller. King of the Road and all of
Mhm.
that stuff. And that book is, people always ask, what's the favorite book you've written? And you're supposed to answer that they're all my children and I love all my
Mhm.
children. But the Roger Miller book is the one I think I got it right. I felt comfortable with that. I got it right because it just seemed like everything I've written, there's something wrong with it. And it comes out, there's something wrong with it. And then there was a coffee table book, which is now going out of print, called Nashville Sound. Those are the two I'm proudest of.
What'd you think about putting it back in print, or is that just that's gone now?
Well, the publisher would have to do that, and he wanted or they wanted a order of 1,000
Mm.
before they'd put it back into print. So, and maybe it had run its course. I don't know. Although there's still demand for it. So, yeah, that's you're dealing with the business of publishing on that. So,
Yeah, and that's a big business, and it can bring up a lot of things in order to make things happen. I mean, there's rights involved, and depending on if they want you to have that 1,000 order, then you have to do that.
mhm,
Otherwise, and
yeah.
is that cost effective for you? You know?
Well, the answer was no, and I didn't want to be sitting packing up books and sending them out.
No.
I didn't want to do that. So there's other things. I'd rather be a creator than a manufacturer. So that kind of ended that.
So you mentioned Dolly. I mean, Dolly is a larger than life figure, kind of like Johnny Cash. I know
Yeah.
you didn't interview her, but I mean, when you first met her, was she still one of those people that you were in awe of, or was she just down to earth and very welcoming right off the bat?
Well, Dolly is always friendly. When I first met her, she wasn't the big star that she is now. She was still with Porter Wagner on the Porter Wagner show. So she had stardom, but it wasn't at the level that it is now. And Dolly is Dolly. I mean, she's done me. In fact, she did a blurb for the Chet Atkins book.
Nice.
Um, it's helped me some things. And then she did an intro to, I've written a book on Minnie Pearl that will come out in the fall. And she did the introduction to that. So, she's kind of done me some favors uh, through the years. But Dolly is Dolly. What you see is what you get. She's happy. She's bubbly. She's extroverted. She's very smart, very shrewd. And my favorite Dolly quote is somebody asked her, said, "What do you want people to think about you 100 years from now?" She said, "100 years from now, I want people to say, she sure looks good for her age."
That's a great quote. That's a great
Yeah.
quote. Well, I mean, that's one of my friends and I joke. It's like, if you're gonna do plastic surgery, find Cher or Dolly Parton's plastic surgeon. Don't go with somebody else. Find their plastic surgeon. And not saying that Dolly's had plastic surgery, but
Oh, she admits it.
I
She
know.
admits it.
I
Yeah.
know. It's just
The one thing she does is she disarms critics with humor, uh, and she has managed to. There was a period back in the '80s uh, when she was kind of a joke, with young people. She was too over the top. Of course, she's emerged out of all that, and the way she did it was with humor.
mhm.
She would deflect it with humor. That's that that's a skill that you're born with. She
Yes.
uh, she is what she is. She really is.
I remember the movie The Best Little Whorehouse in
Yeah.
Texas, and yeah, I mean she had 9 to 5 and Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, so I mean she was getting her acting chops, and I think that she started people started looking at her a little differently because she wasn't taking herself so
Hmm.
seriously. She allowed herself to be a caricature per se, and
Yeah.
that was what I think worked for her because now all of us look at her and it's like, oh yeah, Dolly's wonderful. So, and I think that goes also back to the fame thing is because sometimes people look at fame and they don't realize about the buildup. And for somebody like Dolly or Johnny Cash or anybody that has withstood and still stands the test of time in that game, then,
Yeah.
because not everybody can.
No. A lot of people say they'd like to be stars, but if it wasn't so much trouble, it's a lot of trouble. It's a
Mhm.
lot of work, and you have to sustain for a long time. That one shot and you're famous. That doesn't happen very often. Every now and then something like that will happen, but by and large, it takes a long time, and then you die and it goes away. So,
Yeah. I
so that
mean,
there goes that.
we still know Liz Taylor, but if I mention Liz Taylor to a younger person, are they going to know who Liz Taylor was?
I can tell you no, because I'm around young people a lot, and I have asked that question. Have you heard of Elizabeth Taylor? Nope, never heard of her.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, this goes back to I was talking to I believe Lamal yesterday, and we were talking about the fact that because he's done a cover of Horse with No Name, and he was big in the
Mhm.
80s. I don't know if you remember Lamal. He was with Kaja Gugu, so he did Never Ending Story by himself with Giorgio
Mhm.
Moroder, and then he did Too Shy with Kaja Gugu. He had a couple other singles with him too. But we were talking about covers because he's doing the cover of that. And I said, yeah, I had a friend whose daughter was like so thrilled by Celine Dion's new song. I drove all night. And I'm like, that's not the original. That's a cover. She's like, no, what? I'm like, yeah. So I played her Cyndi Lauper's version. And she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. And I think that's the trap we fall into. Somebody does a cover and it's like, that's the song. Well,
Yeah,
no, they weren't. We don't investigate. It's like we don't go back and see where things happen. It's like when I started liking Rick Springfield back in the 80s, I found out that he had a musical career in the 70s, but he got into a conflict with RCA. Oh,
hmm,
really? Okay. So I go to a used record store and I start finding all his vintage vinyl. I don't think people do that as much now. I don't think they go back
no,
and say, let me go look and see. Well, to me, it was amusing because it's like, wow, that stuff is completely different than what he's doing now.
yeah. I met him way back then.
Did you?
Uh, did a story on him. He was frustrated because he was too pretty,
Mhm.
and people weren't taking him seriously, and it was a bummer for him. So he was moaning that uh, and that was the only time I was around. I may have been around him one more time, but that was it. So
What?
I didn't have much sympathy for that.
No. I mean, I think, the thing is, if you're too pretty, I understand you want to be taken as a serious musician, but if you're too pretty, milk it for what it's worth, and then hopefully the girls turn into liking your music. And the funny thing is, you say he was too pretty, but yet he did this movie in the 80s called Hard to Hold, where he's playing a musician, big stretch here, and he gets locked out of his dressing room and out of the auditorium, so he's running around downtown in a towel. That slips a couple of times, of course, to see the back end, but too pretty. You're obviously working it now, dude. So I guess eventually he embraced the prettiness, but
Yeah. Well, it
uh,
opened doors for him.
yeah. I mean, General Hospital and all these other things opened up, and it was because of his looks. And I'm not
Mhm.
saying he's not talented, but looks do play a part. If you've
Yeah.
got the right look,
Yeah. It helps.
and
Helps a
I
great deal.
and even I mean, even if you go back to, I mean, yeah, Johnny Cash, he was a presence, and I'm not sure he got into the industry because of his talent. Sure, he had
Mm.
that thuggish bad boy of rock look or country look,
Yeah.
but I think his talent is what made him, not so much his looks.
Yeah. Yeah. And he had a charisma. Every
Mhm.
now and then you see somebody with a charisma. Uh, Elvis was like that. I never knew Elvis, but I saw him perform a couple times. He had that charisma, and Cash had it. I'm trying to think of anybody else that's had it, and I can't think of anybody off the top of my head where when they walk in a room, you knew it.
I think
Um,
Jim Morrison might have had it. I
yeah,
never saw him because, of course, I was a kid, and I think he passed shortly after I was born, but he had a persona. I mean, and it is very rare to see that nowadays.
Yeah. Hey, who else did was Billy Graham, the
Yeah.
preacher.
Yeah.
He had a presence, really had a presence.
But I don't think we look at that so much now. I don't think we have that aptitude of somebody carrying themselves because I don't know that we do carry ourselves that way anymore. I don't think
Mhm.
that, of course, I'm not going to go there. Somebody who believes they have that presence, but we're not going to go there. Um, but I mean, it's
I know
just
where you're going
I
there.
know you know where I'm going. All I can say is the emperor has no clothes. That's what we're living right now. But anyway, I think that is. I think we lose something when we don't have that mystique.
Mhm.
And then we have the fake mystique that we are manufacturing. And I think that's what happens now. Elvis, yes, he was a product of certain things, but Elvis still had this presence. Nobody could create that presence. Now we're
Yeah.
now we're giving these reality TV stars that are being created because it's not reality. And it was amazing
Mhm.
to me, not that I was studied Elvis or anything, but watching Elvis the movie and finding out that he never left the country. I always thought of Elvis as this worldwide phenomenon, that he traveled
Mhm.
the world and was this big deal, and then finding out that he never left to tour outside
Yeah.
the United States. I was just kind of like, how is that possible? Because there was the illusion, and I could tell you still the day he
Yeah.
died.
Well, it's because of his
Go ahead.
mhm. Yeah, the reason he didn't tour internationally is because of his manager.
Hmm.
His manager was an illegal immigrant,
Hmm.
and there was a warrant set up for his arrest back in, I think it was Holland. And so he blocked all the tours outside the United States because of that. Yeah. Elvis did get outside the country when he was in Germany,
Right.
during the army, but that was it. Didn't tour, didn't play, didn't perform. So
Do, do you think
yeah,
if
that is odd.
go ahead?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you think if he would have gotten rid of the manager, that his career would have gotten better, and maybe he would not have succumbed to the vices he succumbed to?
Well, I think they were codependent on one another. And Elvis kind of looked at Colonel Tom as sort of a good luck charm. Colonel Tom got him where he is. So if he leaves, what's going to happen? And so it was just they were in too deep. Um, the money situation would have broken it up, though, because Colonel Thomas had a lot of gambling debts, and he'd book Elvis into Vegas to pay off his gambling debts. And that was Elvis was knowing that. I think fame just crushed him,
Hmm.
crushed Elvis. It was, I mean, he couldn't go outside. He couldn't go to the grocery store. So
What do you think about
that kind of locks you away.
what do you think about the person that allegedly the internet is having a field day with, the gentleman that looks like Elvis and sings like Elvis? I don't know if you've seen him or not. It's an older gentleman. I don't remember his name, but
Mm,
everybody swears it's Elvis, that Elvis didn't really die, that this guy is Elvis. He's the right age and everything. I'm just like, okay. It's the tabloid, but it
I
comes to life on
yeah,
on TikTok.
I haven't seen that, but there's Elvis impersonators. In fact, they have a whole convention. I think it's in Vegas, or maybe it's in Memphis at Elvis's house, where they have a whole convention of Elvis impersonators, and they have different stages in his life and all of that.
I we saw one
I
when
don't know how well they sing.
we saw an Elvis impersonator at Astroworld, like, back in the late '70s. I did once. We were coming back from a trip to New Orleans, me and a friend, and she's like, "Oh, you need a break. Let's just go stop at Graceland." I'm like, "I have no desire." "No, let's go stop at Graceland." Now, this is before Graceland kinda has been sanitized, because when we went, I had to laugh because there's Gatorade and Dr. Pepper and water bottles all over the place. And the tour guide, we had a tour guide, not the listen thing now. Now apparently it's all recorded. The
Mhm.
tour guide's like, Elvis never had any alcohol. Elvis didn't drink. He only drank Dr. Pepper, Gatorade, and water. And of course, we're all like, yeah. And he loved Priscilla. Priscilla was the only woman he ever loved. I'm like, okay. But the piece that was the perfect, and when you said RCA, yes, they had all the RCA records, and he got like a console TV for selling X number of records at one point.
Yeah.
But the piece that is no longer there, that was just, it said a lot, was Lisa Marie's swing set. And the slide had a big shotgun blast in it. And they're like, Elvis liked to take and practice shooting out here. And we're like, okay. And his kid's slide has got this hole in it? Yeah. It was an adventure. It was an adventure. And it was a
Yeah.
total tourist trap. But, whatever. You stop, take a
Well,
break.
it's good. It's good that you've been there once anyway. So, so if the subject comes up, you got something to say.
Yeah, because now apparently the swing set's been removed. It's all audio taped, and everything has been sanitized. And what was really bad, and I don't even remember what my friend said. We were standing at the base of the stairs. You couldn't go up to his master bedroom or the bathroom, and the woman said something about him dying, and I don't remember what my friend said, but I chuckled. And this guy looks at me and he just says, "You are so lucky there are no diehards here. Otherwise, you'd be hanging from the chandelier right now." And I'm just like, and the souvenir gift, we had the floating Elvis head pin. So his head floated
Lord.
back and forth.
Oh, Lord. How many did you buy?
I only bought one because I was like, this is just so tacky and so ridiculous that I said the only thing that would have been better is if it played music. His little opening mantra. Anyway, I am digressing and I apologize. So you also are a songwriter. Have you, has any of your music actually been recorded and put out there and sung by?
Oh, yeah.
Well, tell us about this.
Yeah, there's a bluegrass song called "It Rains Everywhere I Go," which is real popular amongst bluegrass acts. I produced an album on Bobby Bare. He had a big hit with Detroit City way back when. Album on Jeannie Seely. Ray Stevens has cut a couple of my songs. Jim Ed Brown, I produced him. He was with the Browns for a long time. Who else? One or two. I haven't had any huge hits. A guy named Chris Ledoux he was a big rodeo star. Guy named Johnny Bush, who was a big Texas star. But yeah, I've got about 20 songs up on YouTube.
Wow.
Other people doing them, and I can't remember them right now. I had a couple songs in TV shows. There was a TV show called Highline. Something about Highway.
Highway to Heaven.
There was another one. It was a homeless. No, it was called Neon Highway.
Okay.
Neon Highway. Had a song in there, and then it was kind of in background, and then I had a song with a movie called Homeless or No Home. But again, these were not big earth-shattering events and whatnot.
No, but I mean,
you get paid very little for that.
Well, this is true, but at least it's still, you've gotten stuff out there. It's like, that's why I said your career has been very much all over the place.
Yeah.
So what do you hope after? I know you said you had a mini Pearl book coming out in the fall. What's your next project after that?
I've got a book I'm working on called Bob Dylan's Connections to Country Music. And that's interesting because he has a lot of connections, even though the Bob Dylan fans tend to concentrate on his rock and folk and that side of it, the blues side of it. They don't link it with country. Country with young people, and especially back in that period of time in the 60s, it was considered racist and backwards and a bunch of hicks and rednecks, and it wasn't worth respecting. And so they kind of stayed away from that. But Dylan always had a connection to country.
I did not know that. So that's something I've learned today. What what do you think about the resurgence of country? Because country seems, although, I mean, personally, I kind of think it's like, okay, back in 1981, we had Urban Cowboy and off we went Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, and everybody started having this big comeback. And here we are now, like last year, we started having a resurgence in country. Do you think it's just a fad, or do you even consider it really true country, or is it more pop country?
What I said was country's never really gone away. It's always been here. It becomes a media darling every now and then. Taylor Swift will come along, or it'll get a lot of sales by somebody or other, and then it kind of goes off the radar screen on what's hip, and then it'll come back as a fad. But it's been going. The first commercially successful country record was made in 1923, so country music has been going all that time, and it keeps going. It doesn't sound the same as it did from 1923, but it's loyal to the market. Bluegrass is loyal to a sound, but country is loyal to a market. It's what people want to buy and what people want to hear.
And yes, there's a running joke of country with, my pickup truck broke down, my girl left me, and but I think it's evolved somewhat since then. I mean, because I've interviewed several country artists on the show, and I think listening to their songs, it has evolved over time.
Oh yeah. Well, the technology's made such a huge difference. Technology is on equal footing with rock and pop and classical and everything else. And a lot of it is coming out of computers, as opposed, people don't write songs anymore. They build them. They get a software program, and they start playing around and making what used to be a demo, and now can be a master. And you can put it up on Spotify and Amazon and all those places, and it gets some airplay.
Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing. I mean, that's the one thing that's good about technology is it's allowed us not to have so many gatekeepers. We can put our stuff out there, and it reaches a bigger audience.
Well, most of the stuff that comes out gets dropped into a bottomless pit.
Oh, yeah.
It gets maybe 100 views. That's friends and family. But there's so much stuff that goes up every day, and it's just lost. Just lost.
I've talked to movie producers, and they've talked about trying to get their movie on Tubi, and how much they were like, Tubi was getting 1,000 movies a day to be solicited to them. And I've come to the point, I love my podcast. I enjoy doing it. Same thing with my writing. And I'm not expecting to become a millionaire for this. It's like one of those things where it's like, I do it because I enjoy it. And sometimes, when I post stuff, I feel like I'm shouting out into the void. But you know what? Doing this part of it is not shouting out in the void. But everything else about it, it's like, if somebody, I'm no fool that, yes, I can have a guest that's a bigger name guest, and I'm going to have a big turnout for that episode. That doesn't mean it's going to turn my other episodes into anything, and I don't have any fake ideas about where I'm at right now. And that's okay. I do this because I enjoy it. Somebody who wants to watch it. And I mean, I do have, to be fair, I do have some followers that follow every episode, that have watched every episode or listened to every episode. But I'm not a fool to sit there and think, oh, if I get such and such, I'll say this. If I got Taylor Swift, I will never get Taylor Swift. But if I got Taylor Swift, yes, that episode's going to be hit with 1 million views. But then the next one may not. And I'm not so foolish to think, oh, that's going to make my podcast. No, it's not. Mm-mm.
Well, you're playing for the long haul. And that takes endurance and persistence. And you've got it. I mean, if you just keep, some days are diamond and some days are stone. If you keep at it, that's the thing with writing. Some days you don't feel like writing. You sit at the keyboard and you start typing. And so what you're doing is, you're playing for the long run. You're playing for the endurance, for the legacy.
Exactly.
And it doesn't come with one; it comes with a whole string of them. So you've probably got a whole batch of of podcasts that are ready when somebody discovers it, somebody new.
I have been doing this for 4 years. Come this weekend, and by the time this airs, it'll be past that. But I have close to 200 episodes, and I did take an 8-month break, but I make sure that I get it done now, because I realized when I stepped away and I came back, I really enjoy doing it. And that's the thing. If you enjoy something, it shouldn't matter how many views or likes you're going to get. Don't play to that, because that is going to change, and that can affect your mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you sound like, to me, that you are on the right road. I mean, so few people are satisfied with where they are in life. Not that life's perfect, but you're satisfied there. It's rewarding for you. You have a purpose.
I do.
So
I do. And I think that's one of the important things to figure out, especially after some of the things I've gone through in the last couple of years. I had to figure out my purpose, and I had to do something that gave me joy and happiness. And that's what I've done.
uh-huh.
So yeah.
Good.
So is there
Good.
anything that we haven't talked about? The only reason I'm going to cut this a little short is because I noticed that the internet keeps glitching and I don't want to lose you completely.
Yeah. Okay.
So is there anything that
No, I
we
mean
haven't talked about that you want to add?
we've covered everything. We've covered a whole lot. And I'm supposed to be plugging my Chet Atkins book, and we did that. And so I think we're good.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Don.
Well, it's a great pleasure talking to you, Donna, not Dawn, Donna. And maybe we'll do it again someday.
Maybe. So the only reason I wrapped the podcast up is because we were having glitches and I didn't really want to lose him. And hopefully Don will come back and I think we can have an interesting conversation about his mini Pearl book, if not another book. I think when you have a purpose, kind of what he was saying, when you have a purpose and a passion, then life comes to you and gives you what you need. And I think that's kind of important because sometimes when we don't have that passion, we don't know where we're going. And I've talked about this before on the show. It's like before I moved, I kept wondering for 3 years going, what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing? Where am I going? And now that I moved, granted, I am not in any way organized, set up, or anything. And I was handed, we've talked about this, the big C diagnosis. And so it's like, okay, so now what? But, one of the things I've recently felt is like, I'm going to keep going. I have to keep doing this. And I think that's the important thing. It's like when we have a reason and a purpose that keeps us motivated. And, it's like, I don't know where this ride's going, but I'm going to take it and see where it ends up. And I think, as he was saying, where's life going? Where is life coming at you? And you sometimes need to experience that. And I hate, my husband used to always say this expression, and I was always like, yeah, right, because he never did. But he's always like, go with the flow. You have to go with the flow. And it was like, uh-huh. And he didn't always go with the flow. But he never, he always managed to find some joy in life. It didn't matter what, but he always managed to find joy. So find something in your day that may not be so wonderful and really think about it in a different way. Reframe it and find some joy in it, because even the darkest lessons sometimes still hold joy for us. And we have to use that joy to keep us going, to make us stay positive. So on that note, I'd like to thank Rich Zai from 30 Year Audio Productions for doing the audio. I'd like to thank Fast Susie for the intro and outro music. I'd like to thank Don for coming on the show. But most importantly, I'd like to thank you for listening and watching. And no matter when you're listening, morning, noon, or night, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye.